I've also listed two other dates. Brace yourself, because the first one, August 30th, 1938, is shocking and personal. Mr. Wiley, they called him Jim Heron, was my grandfather. He was lynched on August 30th, 1938, when my mother was only 8 years old. My mother, Maggie T. Jones at the bottom, also died on August 30th, but many years later. It is not a coincidence that they died on the same day. My birthday is March 18th, 1961. I'm a twin. My daughter was born on May 19th, 1990. All of these dates are relevant in my life because by the time I was 8 years old, 5 national figures had been assassinated. And my question for the group is, if you're surrounded by violence like this, are you likely to become a violent or angry person? For me, the answer was yes. I was directly affected by my environment. On a personal level, I was bullied quite a bit in my neighborhood, and I experienced some personal abuse from relatives. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but the point is, it made me an angry person. And I had reason to be angry. If you knew my story, you understood why I was angry. I want to dedicate this presentation to my parents, my daughter, and to my grandfather. This is his death certificate. I moved from this to this because of some of the people and the organizations that I got involved with as I was growing up and into adulthood. They helped me make a different choice. That is a choice moving away from violence. And not by violence, I mean getting into street fights and stuff all the time. I wasn't doing anything extreme, but it was violence nonetheless. To the point where I began to bully folks. And these people, Roanoke Catholic School, St. Gerard's Catholic Church, so on and so forth, helped me turn away from that. That's how I went from the picture on the left to the picture on the right. These are some of the key players in my life who helped me redirect. In particular, there's a woman named Camille Buchanan who told me to write a poem after one of my classmates called me the N-word. She completely changed my life in a matter of minutes. There's a guy named Dave Robertson here who sat down with me and re-interviewed me for a job at Radford University because he understood that young Black men tended not to look older white male authority figures in the eye. Those are just a couple of examples. I wish I had more time. But the long and short of it is that if you created a Venn diagram of my life, peace ultimately showed up in the middle. Now, I'm not one to talk about myself a lot. There's a reason why I'm telling this story. And we'll get to that. But first, I want to talk about the story of X's and O's. Use your imagination a little bit. Take a look at this set of X's and tell yourself which one stands out. The answer is none of them do. Now look at this and tell me which of these X's stand out. And more importantly, use your imagination and ask yourself, how does that O in the middle there, how does it feel? And have you ever had that experience yourself? Now look at this picture. There are two O's. And the question is, will they find each other? And the answer is, more than likely, they will. The other question is, how do those O's feel? How do the X's feel? How are the X's treating the O's? And why is it that they see themselves differently anyway? Is it just the exterior? Could be. Is this likely to happen? The O's get together in a world of X's. And when they do, because it probably will happen, what stories will they tell each other? What type of relationship will they form with each other? What is the narrative? What is their truth? What is their pain? Beyond the socialization that happens between the O's, there are sources of information that they will rely on. You'll recognize them: television, school, movies, the same sources of information that all of us use. And the conditions through which they receive this information makes the information stick. Maybe they're being told meaningful things that serve a purpose from people that they trust. Or maybe they're at an age where they're unable to refute what's being told to them. Or maybe they're isolated and they have no access to any other information because of distance or just the setup within their home. But there's a myriad of reasons why receiving information under certain conditions makes that information stick. It changes how we think. It programs us to react in certain ways to certain situations. Okay, so I've told you a little bit about me. Are you okay with who I am? Do you feel like you know me? Am I trustworthy? Am I somebody that you would invite to lunch? Am I somebody you would want to have in your neighborhood? Would you work on the same job with me? Knowing that I was exposed to violence at a very young age and did not buy into that. In fact, the reason that I was able to make a different choice was very simple. I played a sport called football, and it allowed me to be angry. It gave me permission to legally be violent. And it allowed me to get rid of my anger and make a different choice. And then, as I suggested earlier, I met some people along the way who redirected me. But let me ask you this. What if my story turned out this way? My ancestral history gave me the same identity. And what other people might perceive to be as violent, I call self-defense. And my religion and my belief systems lead me to this triangular type of relationship between God, guns, and guts. And I proudly wave my Southern rebel flag at every opportunity. Now note that this person and me went through the same process, right? We had parents, we had schools, we had books, we had people in our lives who we trusted, who cared for us, who shared information with us under certain conditions. From childhood at a very young age all the way up through adulthood. In other words, we all go through the same process to become who we are. So my question for you, my challenge for you is, if we're really serious about the beloved community, a global vision in which all people can share in the wealth of the earth. In the beloved community, poverty, hunger, and homelessness will not be tolerated because international standards of human decency will not allow it. Racism and all forms of discrimination, bigotry, and prejudice will be replaced by an all-inclusive spirit of sisterhood and brotherhood. And I apologize, I did not highlight Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. properly in this slide. But I believe most of us who are doing peace work know this concept. And my question again is, can we create a beloved community in isolation? And my challenge for me and for us is that we cannot. We need to look at those who are perceived as being different or less than or the other, or there's something wrong with that person because of whatever. I assure you, they have a story that led them to being who they are and how they are, and it makes sense in the same way that your story led you to being who you are. So there's a challenge before us if we really are serious about building peace, building relationships, and creating the beloved community. We need to drop our biases. We need to form those relationships. We need to build those bridges, or in politics, as they say, we need to reach across the aisle. I used to work at Ohio State University. In 1987, there was a march in Forsyth County. I know I'm aged, they're telling you my age. But that shouldn't be a problem, right? There was a march in Forsyth County, Georgia. Actually, there were two of them. But the one I went to was the follow-up to the first, and there were over 20,000 people there. And for the first time in my life, I saw a man in full KKK garb, head to toe. I couldn't make out his face or anything. We were standing about 20 or 30 yards from each other. I really didn't know what to do or say. He was by himself. I was by myself. And I waved at him, just friendly wave. And I didn't know what I would get back. But some of you have heard me tell the story before. Much to my surprise, he waved back at me. I thought he was going to give me the finger or pick up a brick or something. I didn't know what he was going to do. I waved at him because I wanted him to acknowledge my humanity. And the only way I could do that I thought at the time, was to acknowledge his. And I believe that people are reciprocal. We tend to treat each other the way that we get treated. What's the point of all of this? The point is, we are peace builders. That is difficult work. In fact, there's a group in Roanoke, Virginia called Friends of Heaven Spring that is a nonviolent, peace-oriented organization devoted to the principles of Kingian nonviolence. And I'm going to tell you that community organizing is the most difficult work I've ever done. Kudos to the Pax Christi local, state, and regional leaders who are doing this work in their free time. It is not easy work, but it is the only way that we will see peace. It is the only way that we will see justice. It's the only way that we will build the beloved community. I thank you all for having me this afternoon. I don't know if there's a way to ask questions or not. I will stay on the call. I think I got about 5 minutes left in my designated time. If anybody wants to throw out a question, I'll do my best to try and answer. My contact information is here. That picture is me and my daughter. I'm making the goofy face because I had never done a selfie before. And she was telling me how to do it. So that's the first and only selfie I've ever done.
Thank you, Steve.
Should I try to answer some questions?
Just have 5 minutes before we move to our panel. And if we do have 1 or 2 questions that Stephen can take, we can do that. Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to just comment that they are amazing and they are appreciated, loved in all their ways.
Stephen, if you can't hear that, we got a mic.
I can hear.
I'm Dequani, and I want to say that you're amazing and for you to enjoy the rest of your day. And we all appreciate love you and your presence here with us.
Thank you.
I don't know if you know you now, but I think any of us would happily take you to lunch. Okay. Anyone else? Have a quick question or comment? Okay, then I think we'll say thank you to Stephen, and we're going to move into our panel. Thank you so much for walking us through with us.
Thank you for having me. I hope the conference is going well.